Saturn in the 8th house of your birth chart. The 8th house governs matters of transformation. So when one thing is ceasing to become what it was and beginning to change and expand outward into a new form, somewhat like a caterpillar emerging as a butterfly. Traditionally, the 8th house is the house of death, and people then and even today fear the word death. But the truth is that death is nothing more than a change of form. And this house also rules things that go along with that change of form, like legacy, so inheritance after somebody dies, as well as, by extension, matters that emerge from being an agent for another person or organization, which is why you often hear that this house governs other people's interests and working with other people's money, and that money piece of it is by the opposition with the second house, which is how you earn and your money and what you value. So it's other people's values and interests and other people's money. My personal interest in the 8th house, whereas that can be true, and it's certainly, if you're looking at a career type of reading, this can indicate someone who's actually very savvy at types of careers like an accountant, an investor, an estate agent, where you're working for other people's or with other people's property and interests. That certainly is true in that type of a reading. There's also a deeper aspect of the 8th house and Saturn, which is looking at an expertise or an obsession with or a focus on those spaces of the mysteries and those parts of life in which birth and death come together. And so I say it's the mysteries or the hidden aspects of life. So you could also see somebody getting involved in investigations, in investigations of maybe matters that are unusual, from anything from like a private investigator to a paranormal researcher type of thing, or studying astrology, studying tarot or other forms of divination. Having Saturn in a house always means some form of restriction or limitation, and specifically, it's the form that you chose for this incarnation. So you would tend to run across your personal limits in matters of the 8th house. And when you run into those limits, then the correct response is to adhere to them, and don't be afraid. So sometimes where Saturn exists in our chart, especially when we're younger and we're not yet, attuned to who we are and how life really works, then we tend to fear what's in that realm. So in the case of the 8th house Saturn, you may tend to fear death. You may tend to fear those matters where you become blended with another to the extent that you almost lose your individuality. And the message is, don't be afraid. Don't worry about losing your ego in the process of becoming an expert on these matters. And that is the positive side of this house, is to really become somebody who focuses on what needs to be done to transform, to manage affairs of or legacy of a larger body or of a relationship, such as being the financial person for an organization, or for, again, an estate after someone has passed away. Or, again, maybe you're somebody who is like a guide of the soul, and you go down the darker byways of life in order to help other people to discover, how do I manage these big changes in a way and still have meaning and still be able to thrive and have joy in life. Maybe that's the kind of person you are. You have to discover or even create the particulars, but that's what the positive side of Saturn in the 8th house is. So be that type of person who can help and who can shine a light in the darkness, and who can shine a light in matters that are broader than just an individual.